Welcome to another episode of Xecurity Pulse. Also, I would like to thank every one of you who supported us, and now we have crossed like 10,000 subscribers, which is all because of your support. Sara Nagy, the senior director at Microsoft. Welcome to the show, Sara. So we'll talk about the human side of innovation, Sara.
They looked at open positions, and then they looked at the positions that they needed to eliminate, and then they worked to try to do some skill matching.
As you are going about developing something, there should be somebody who is telling you that hey, you need to do it securely, or you need to take better precautions and better privacy practices. Be open and be like authentic to who you are and where you want to be.
Like I mentor a lot of people, but I have mentors because people have different skills in different areas. Like you can't be perfect at everything.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Xecurity Pulse. And today we have with us Sara Nagy. She's a senior technology leader with over 25 years of experience driving innovations across AI, cloud, and emerging tech. As a senior director at Microsoft, she led global adoption efforts for cutting-edge technologies such as AI, quantum, 5G. She has been in a leadership position for over like 20 years. She's a passionate mentor and a community advocate, and she's also an outdoor enthusiast and a collector of pop culture. Welcome to the show, Sara.
Thank you so much. Very happy to be here, Taha.
My pleasure. So today, guys, we'll be discussing the role of AI, quantum, and the human side of innovation. So we'll be going through how these technologies are influencing the human side. What are the different tools and skill set which is required, as well as how the technologies companies are adapting these technologies, as well as we'll touch some part on the recent layoffs as well, and how the technology companies can do it better. So we'll go through different things in our discussion. So just stay tuned with us. And I would like to thank every one of you who supported us, and now we have crossed like 10,000 subscribers, which is all because of your support. So I'm really grateful for that. So let's start. Rephrase. So let's start. Okay, so we'll talk about the human side of innovation, Sara. So there's a lot of talk about AI and quantum, and they are really influencing a lot of industries. But I want to also touch on the emotional and social cost of this rapid transformation. So what do you have to say on that?
Well, I think the pace of technology change is exponential, but human adaptation is still linear. And so there's a lot of anxiety, fear, skill displacement that often gets overshadowed by the excitement of innovation. And so I love analogies and stories. I'm a storyteller at heart. And so imagine you're standing at a train station and a brand new high-speed train pulls in. It's sleek, it's fast, it's amazing, full of promise. And engineers are really excited, investors are thrilled, and the technology is super impressive, but not everyone has a ticket. And some people aren't sure where the train is even going, and others don't know how to get on, or they're afraid they're going to be left behind. That's what rapid innovation, in my opinion, often feels like, is technology races forward, but the people, their skills, their emotions, their sense of security, they're still standing on the platform, and they're trying to figure out like what just happened. And so we talk a lot about building the train, but we don't always invest enough in on building the on-ramps. And so when you think about people being replaced or the fear of being replaced, I think leaders have to balance velocity with empathy and communication. Reskilling is key. And the real cost isn't just economic, it's really personal identity, purpose, and dignity.
Nice. Well explained. I totally agree with you. And there's also a thing called, people talk about, hey, you want to learn AI, you want to learn quantum, all those skills. And as soon as they get laid off, if there's a restructuring happen, people then actually coaching them that, hey, if you would have gained these skills, you would be saved, or you can now start learning about these things, like new skills. So what do you have to say on those those people, or as well, if you want to guide someone during the layoff period, how do you balance between telling them, hey, you want to learn ABC skills versus staying calm, and how to navigate this critical and difficult time.
Yeah, I think, well, first and foremost, I think you have to acknowledge the situation, acknowledge the fear, don't dismiss it. I
Mhm.
think it's okay to have a little healthy fear. But then I think really think about like what things are irreplaceable that you possess. AI doesn't have cognition. And so you possess problem solving skills that are different, creativity, collaboration, emotional intelligence, all of those things are irreplaceable. And then I think you have to think also, AI isn't here to take your job, but somebody who knows how to leverage AI might. And so anymore, I think reskilling isn't a nice to have. You have to, it's a new career insurance policy. So, in my opinion, the best long term skill is learning how to learn.
I totally agree with you. So, but if you know how to learn and how to focus and how to make the best use of it, then it's a different skill, right? So you have to like get towards it, like
Absolutely.
learn how to learn, and then you'll be able to excel in this.
That's right.
Completely. So there's a lot of talk about Sarah regarding the AI adoption and how the different enterprises are using AI, right? Um, uh, and in terms of the models, in terms of use cases, every week we see different use cases, and there's a LinkedIn post coming up where somebody's coming up with its own version of the AI models. So if you have to guide that, hey, which AI model to use and how to make it meaningful and scalable, uh, how can you how will you go about teaching those like those guys?
Yeah, I think again, like the train analogy, AI is coming fast, and I would look at less about the models and more about the business problem. So it's not the business problem is not an algorithm. You
Mhm,
think about what
mhm,
problem you're trying to solve, and
mhm,
then think about how AI can assist in decision making, not replacing human judgment potentially. But I think there's also things like governance, security, responsibility. We had a thing at Microsoft called the Responsible AI Framework,
mhm.
and those types of things need to be foundational. They can't be an afterthought. There's also proof of concept purgatory that I used to see a lot, where tons of proof of concepts, but not enough operational integration. And so I think again, to me, it's less about the actual model itself and more about what you're actually trying to do and how are you going to measure real ROI? Is it revenue growth? Is it cost savings? Sometimes you might integrate AI and it's not actually saving you money potentially.
Mhm, mhm.
There could be potential challenges with customer experience. There's a lot of things you have to consider, when you're thinking about the actual use cases for AI.
Nice, nice. And just want to add on here something as well. What I have seen is for the enterprises and for the startups even, the thing which has worked for them is that they are, instead of just getting it towards a model, they are first of all looking at their policies and
Hmm.
like the business objectives and the goals, where they are lagging and what are the different what are the gaps they're finding, and then they are seeing in their existing tech, which how the existing tech is solving this problem. Let's say if you're using automation, and if automation is not solving your problem, then it is a case of using an AI, right? So this is where you would start off exploring what is not working for you, and if that is as part of your business objective as well, that hey, you want to, let's say, reduce cost or like automate some of the processes what you have, and if your existing tech is not solving, then you will be having a case to use the AI.
That's
um,
right. I would just add too, I think it goes back to the skilling piece, because if you integrate technology into a company and then the people in the company don't know how to use it, or are
hmm,
challenged in terms of upskilling themselves, you may lose productivity. And so I think there's
hmm,
a balance. There's definitely a
hmm,
balance in terms of how do you skill people to learn how to use the tools, and then how do you use the tools, because to me AI is a tool. It's nothing
hmm,
other than
hmm.
a tool.
True.
How do you use that tool then to make something more effective or
Yeah, yeah.
operationalize it, that type of thing.
Yeah, and one of the other things what I have seen is that instead of just getting directly into the uh, like tools and like the tech behind it, you have to start with something like a policy first. You need to have a program, I would say, not the policy here. So the program
Absolutely.
should have a policy processes and the procedures in place, and until you have those, and if you have not defined all those things, then you'll not be able to scale or to know how to like expand and integrate the AI with your existing tools, right?
Absolutely.
All right, so moving on from the AI and automation world to the quantum or hype, because I know we are transitioning here, but I want to have your thoughts on this as well, because this is very important. A lot of companies are pushing to have quantum readiness. They don't know what is the inventory looks like, but they still want to be prepared when the regulation hits them. So what you have seen in terms of quantum readiness, in different enterprises, especially Microsoft.
Yeah, so I'll start by saying that I had helped create a program that we called Quantum Ready. You can find it on Microsoft's website at quantum.microsoft.com. And the entire purpose of the program was, how do we help enterprise companies actually get ready? And it's not just about the technology, but from a business perspective, kind of like you mentioned before, what are the policies that you need to have, and how should you be thinking about your workforce, and how do you think about the culture in your organization, and the readiness. So it's a lot about business strategy and how to actually prepare your organization. And so I think near term, that's what quantum is going to be focused around, because quantum computing is definitely a few years out in terms of commercially available quantum machines. But it's much like AI, where the breakthroughs are happening much faster now. And so I see, early sectors like national security, cryptography is a big one. Material science, research and development. These sectors are getting really, really exploring and looking at quantum. And I think that there's also things that we talk about in our Quantum Ready program, which include other technologies. So quantum will not be used in isolation. There will always be components of AI and high performance computing. So very specific clusters of compute that allow you to focus on a very particular problem. And so when you combine those three technologies together, that's how quantum will be seen in the future. But it's not going to be mass adoption. I think there's a lot of strategic experimentation, and there's capability building that's happening in these organizations too.
Nice, very well explained. And just want to share my thoughts also on this. So there is when we talk about readiness, we want to first understand the crypto practices that you are following inside your organization. So let's say if you're using like certificates, or is there any like encryption integrity checks that you're using, that you're doing with crypto keys, right? So you have to think that whether you're following the lifecycle management of those keys, right? So where are you in terms of that readiness? And then do you have the inventory of all the cryptographic algorithms that your architecture is using it? So until you have that view, you'll be just doing the patchwork, right? If you don't have that structure in place in the first place.
Absolutely. We also had a program, and still have a program, called Quantum Safe at Microsoft, and it focuses absolutely on what you're talking about, is a framework that you need to be thinking about for security. And so there's kind of 5 steps. Again, you can find it on the website under quantum.microsoft.com. Just talking about what you just explained. What are the policies? How do you think about inventorying everything that you have in terms of applications, and how do you think about your infrastructure, and what are the steps you need to put in place? Because hackers will harvest now and wait until there are more commercially viable quantum machines, and then we will definitely see a lot of security challenges if we aren't preparing now. So I think you made a great point.
Yeah. Thank you for that, and I agree. So there is, as we talk about technologies, right? AI, quantum. There is also distributed computing, like blockchain is also evolving. Bitcoin, by the way, guys, has a potential to reach like 120K. That's not an investment advice, but just to give you an idea that how like the potential about this technology. So do you think we need a consolidated framework from the organization, from an organizational perspective, as well as from the national perspective, how to like study on those, how to do study on these technologies, as well as what things to consider in the case of like adoption as well as ethical use of these technologies. Because what I have seen is there is no like a single framework, and even within the AI space there is a lot of companies who are coming up with their own with their own executive orders, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I mean, there is EU AI Act coming in, and there is executive order here in the US, and there is other countries are doing similarly. Like quantum has its own way of like coming into the mainstream. So what is your view in terms of having a single framework, or at least uh, a framework which has the emerging technologies and then sub frameworks which has different technologies into it?
I think it's a great idea. One of the things that we would do at Microsoft is we were regularly working with standards bodies. So, the National Institute of Standards, NIST,
Yeah.
is someone that we work with a lot. But I do think I think I look at it a bit like the internet.
Mhm.
We had to create some type of policies and, framework, to your point, and standardization for the
Mhm.
internet. And I think we need to be thinking about that for many other technologies, because there is always going to be bad actors. And I
Mm.
think there's always going to be a need, to sort of self-regulate. And I think a lot of major tech companies are going in and, working on consortiums where they're having these conversations, but I haven't seen any, kind of, to your point, like formalization around this. And I think it's actually a
Yeah.
good idea, because what happens if you don't, is you get into this, challenge, like you were talking about the EU and things like that, in terms of if you build something, maybe it will not be allowed in another, particular country. And
Yeah.
so if you want innovation and technology to excel, you need to think and prepare how you actually create the structure around it before you do that.
Exactly, exactly. And just to add on to this one, we can never stop innovation, right? There always a way that the startups will find, or a bad
Yep.
tech group will find to make the better use of technology, right? And then the regulators or the Senate bodies have to do the patchwork and to come up with
Right.
some ethical use, and how they can use those at like safely. So why not we should be proactive,
Yes.
like in terms of having those secure by design or privacy by design principles included from day zero, I would say.
Yeah.
That as you are going about development something, there should be somebody who is telling you that hey, you need to do it securely, or you need to take better precautions and better privacy practices, right?
Absolutely.
uh, so moving on, so there is I'm always I always wants to balance between the economic gains for enterprise, whereas like versus the like the operational efficiency as well. So at one point of time, we see when a company, let's say Microsoft or Amazon, right, they want to scale, they want to adapt technology, they will be start hiring a lot of people, right? They'll be when and they will be hitting on their numbers as well, right? If you see the balance sheet, they keep on increasing, and then there's a time comes when they want to restructure. uh, where they would not care about how big a name you are, but if you're not uh, like coming in their plan, or if you're not if you are like coming in their algorithm, you'll be out the next day, right?
Yep.
So uh, what do you think? Because see, I have also been a part of this thing, so I know how it feels, and you know but the company still will actually find a way to replace you, right? So
Right.
what do you think, is there a way that the layoff or the restructuring can be improved? Let's say you, because like anyways you have to do it, right, to satisfy your management, or to cut your expense, whatever the agenda is, right? But is there any way that this whole layoff can be better, to in a way that to keep on doing what you have been doing in terms of adapting technology, integration, all those things, to make this work better, but at the same time protect the human side of this innovation as well?
Yeah, I think, well, first, what I would say is I think that there's a short-term correction that's happening of overhiring during like hyper growth. And there's this long-term structural shift towards, leaner, more AI-assisted orgs. So I think of it a bit like, if you think of the pandemic, it's a bit like, pulling on an elastic band during the pandemic, and the demand for tech talent went crazy. It's like we need digital capabilities, remote work, e-commerce, virtual collaboration,
Yeah.
like Teams. We had luckily built out Teams before that, but those types of products. And so then that's not natural growth. That's emergency driven, accelerated growth. And so now when we release the tension on the elastic band, it snaps back a little bit, but not all the way to where we started. So, some of that demand's temporary, but then the structural change is permanent. So, when you think about AI stepping into some of these roles, and you said it best, innovation is not going to slow down. So, you have to think about a correction and a recalibration. And so, companies are learning that they could do more sometimes with fewer people, but worker stability, is going to come from different things. So skill currency, flexibility, personal brand. And, the thing I would add here is the AI revolution is still really highly concentrated. The AI revolution is still highly concentrated in the tech sector. So cloud providers, software companies, startups. So outside of tech, I was reading a stat yesterday, and I think it was yesterday. As of 2024, McKinsey estimates that only 15 to 20% of global industries have integrated AI at scale into their core business processes. But large tech companies have like 80% of AI integrated. So the other thing we're seeing is there's a lot of other roles in other companies that are like skilled trades. So linemen, electricians, welders, mechanics, those are very hard to replace with AI, and they're hard to automate, and they're geographically very critical. And so I think, the tech industry is going through a shift and a change and a business model change. And I think we need to be thinking about what skills do we have that are irreplaceable, that AI can't replace, and how do we, again, you also mentioned about constantly learning, and I did too. Like, how do we learn to learn? And it's not the era of like my grandfather where you worked in a job for 50 or 60 years and then you retired. Like, that's just not how things are anymore.
True. That's very, very interesting. So there is I have seen companies who have done this better. They did two things. One is, let's say that if I'm the big boss, right? Because you'll not see this coming right now.
Right.
You'll be observing this thing that, hey, maybe after 3 months I have to do this layoff thing, right? So there is a time which you have when you have to take the decision, right?
Right.
So in that 3-4 months, what companies or who are really good at doing this is they would empower their workforce to learn some new things, or they would involve them in some other opportunities as well. So when the time comes, they are better prepared. That is one, that what I've seen organization doing this. And secondly, they can introduce something like furloughs or temporary thing. Like, for example, you can be furloughed for like 6 months, but then we can introduce you with some other opportunities as well in the meantime. So there has to be a middle ground. You cannot just say that, hey, we are sorry, we cannot have you, we don't have
Right.
work for you, right? You have to find something better to accommodate this thing. Because see, as this person is going out, been working for you for like 20 years, 15 years,
Right.
he'd be not speaking good about you. Let's be honest, right? So it's better to care about your people, and not think about the short-term goal, and to have some sort of like a middle ground for them where they can grow as well as they have some better opportunities as well.
Yeah, I think I'll add to that. I think, one thing that I saw, not during this layoff, but in previous layoffs, was, as you said, the big boss, like, someone who was in charge of an organization inside the company. And I respected this very greatly. They looked at open positions, and then they looked at the positions that they needed to eliminate, and then they worked to try to do some skill matching. So, could this person, could I put them in this other role over here where we have a need? Do they have enough skills? Can they learn, to your point? Can we give them a couple of months? And I think they had very little layoff in terms of the people leaving the organization, because they kind of tried to do some matchmaking, as it were, with some of the open roles that they had. And I think that's a better way to, again, if you've invested in someone for 20, 25 years and they understand the company and they understand how everything works and they know a lot of the people, why not try to shift them into a different role that you have open, if they've got enough of the skill set to do that.
True, true, true. Very well explained. I just want to also, touch something on the individuals as well, because in my case, or in other case that I know, uh, you cannot just stay in your comfort zone, right?
Right.
Even if you are getting a lot of good compensation, you've been doing it like, I mean, good at your work, but you have spent good amount of time, or you have seen good cases which can tell you to be prepared, right? You cannot just be in a reactive mode all the time. When something will
Right.
happen, then you'll start working on it, so you have to, like, as you are in your comfort zone, try to develop some skills, or try to see how you can get something passively, and see if, like, if that is working for you. I would say, if you want to be successful, try to work more hard than yourself than what you do at your job. That is one. And secondly, try to build a skill, or something which is solving the real problem of the market, and try to build the network out of it, right? uh,
Right.
for example, if you look at this day and age, right, like, a lot of tools and information is available on how you can excel in AI, how you can, like, do hands-on, but if you're not doing it, it is you who are to be blamed, right?
Right.
As well as try to see what your network looks like, because there is one thing which is having a skill, and then there is another thing where people knows that you know these skills, right?
Right.
So try to balance this both things as you are working at your full-time job, right? And
Yeah.
because the thing is, when the layoff or the restructuring will happen, then you cannot blame the enterprise. You have to just blame yourself if you're not doing what you're supposed to do right now.
That's right. Yeah. And I think I would add, and I totally agree with you. I have a broad network, and I, talk to a lot of people, and I change jobs inside the company probably every 3 years to a different discipline. Now that's hard, and it is outside your comfort zone, but even without doing that, there's a lot of free learning resources that are available online. Like Microsoft, as an example, you can go to our learning courses. I think it's learn.microsoft.com, and you can take free courses to, like, upskill yourself on AI, or learn learn how to develop code, or there's a variety of different things that people can do. So to your point, in our group, we always had a learning Friday, and so every Friday was set aside to, like, learn something new. And so each of us would take a couple of hours and do learning courses, just to kind of refresh either on some new innovation that we saw coming out, or to learn some new skills. So I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, yeah. And also there is few thing which has helped me in particular. So I want to share that out as well. So let's say that you are in your senior architect role or a director role, and you are, like, earning very good, and your family has been all happy, and everything is going smoothly, right? Try to then uh, assess yourself to, let's say, where do you want to go in next few years, like, what is that target position which you want to target, which you want to hunt, right?
Right.
Even though you're happy at your role, you have to keep on be hungry about what you have to do next, right? So
Agreed.
take that title, where you want to go to, search what are the skills required of those titles. Let's say if you are a program manager, you want to land into a senior program management role, or you want to land into a senior director role. See what skills and qualification is needed for those roles, and try to make an Excel sheet out of it. See where you are at, and what are the skills that are missing, which you
Yeah.
want to become, right? And then try to do reverse engineering. Try to see what are the courses, and what are the things that you can do in order to take that skill. Because there's one thing which is setting up a goal, And then there is another thing which is setting up the processes which you need to have those goals fulfilled, right?
That's
So
exactly the advice I used to give my mentees was look at your role that you're in now, look at
Mhm,
the next role or a different role that you're looking to move into, and
mhm.
then map out the difference, the gaps. And then, you can also try to find mentors that have some skills in those areas. So how can you then learn those trades and those skills so that you become more valuable?
Exactly. And
Yeah,
mentorship is something which I like really recommend and encourage people, because what I've seen is people are like people don't know how to
right.
ask for help, right? They think
Yeah,
that they know a lot themselves, and they have this ego where they think that if they would reach out to someone, they would feel something like less,
right.
like knowledgeable, which makes them hard to reach, and this
Yeah,
is the worst thing that they can do to themselves.
agree.
So you have to, if you have these feelings that, hey, why would I find a mentor? You are a Superman. You don't need a mentor. And if I have to reach to someone, he might feel, that, hey, why this person is coming down to me. This is not the case. If you will reach out to someone, if you be very tactical to how you reach out, the other person will actually like appreciate this, and he would do whatever you need to, solve him, like help you out. So this would like open up other doors of opportunities as well for you. Maybe he can find another person in his network to help you out.
Right.
So just be open and be like authentic to who you are and where you want to be.
I think too, because even like I mentor a lot of people, but I have mentors
Yeah.
because people have different skills in different areas. Like you can't be perfect at everything. So
Mhm.
maybe you need some, I'm an extrovert, but potentially if you need help, if you're an introvert and you need help with, some of the different things you might need in terms of soft skills, because soft
Mhm.
skills are very hard to pinpoint. And
Mhm.
oftentimes, the higher up you get into a management role, the more soft skills are needed. And so, looking at mentors in terms of the gaps that you might have, and they might fill those gaps, and they might not be a senior person to you. They may be someone that is newer in career, but they really have a skill around that, type of thing that the gap that you're missing. And so, to your point, don't be afraid to ask for help. I
Yeah,
think
as simple as
is
this.
key. Yeah,
As simple as this. Okay. I need to also touch on one topic with you.
sure.
Uh, let's say if you are 2 months, I'll take you 2 months to where you are right now. Okay, 2 months, like before, like in Microsoft.
Yeah,
Uh, if you have to do, or if you have to advise to yourself 2 months back, that, hey, if you would have done this two, three things more, or if you have to come up in some groups maybe, or be surrounded with some people, uh, that layoff would not have hit you, if or for any in particular, like people who are staying right now,
yeah.
right, who are very comfortable with their job, and if they have to prevent any of these situations, can this be like corrected, self-corrected maybe? Is that
Or
something,
avoided,
is that a
maybe.
thing? Yeah.
Avoided.
Yeah.
So for me personally, I don't think so, because the AI sort of took my job, but AI didn't really take my job. I
Mhm.
worked in a very specific incubation type of team, and
Mhm.
so I we knew that it as if they tighten the belt or if certain things could happen, they could
Mhm.
potentially lay us off. So like it wasn't
Uh,
necessarily a surprise, but to your question, the advice I would give someone in another group, maybe that's more a mainstream business, one, make sure your managers know who you are. Make sure that you're letting people understand the value of your work. Because if they don't know who you are a number on a spreadsheet. And so there's many ways that you can make sure that your work is known, so that they understand the value that you're bringing. I also think it's very good to get out on LinkedIn and social media and other places to like talk about your work, so that it's not just the people in your company or the core org that you work in understand
mhm.
the value that you bring. But I think those are the key things I would say is just, if your vice president knows who you are, they understand your work, they see the value in your work. It's much harder, when they're looking at these different layoffs to say, they're at that point, they aren't just numbers. They know who the people are going to be. And if they understand the value of your work and the thing that you're working on, and it's bringing ROI, you're able to, show value for the business. That's maybe the other thing I would say is look at what you're working on and understand, is that a priority for the company? If it's I'm not trying to belittle any roles, but if it's a widget somewhere in a type of product, and you kind of think, okay, this could potentially be something that just is maybe not that important if they have to like reduce cost. Then I think it's, look at the things you're working on. How are they driving revenue? Does your vice president know who you are? Are your programs, big and bold and, making a difference? That would be the main advice I would give.
Nice. Very well said, Sarah. And I totally agree with you. I have like two follow-up questions for you, like on this.
Yeah.
So you said, let's say you are working in an organization which has like 10 people. Your your boss's boss should know you, right? So in that case, do you think if it's a closed group, let's say your boss is like not like insecure, or he doesn't want you to be sent to his boss for his
Yeah.
for his things, how someone can navigate this like a toxic boss thing?
Yeah, that's a hard one. I had a great boss right before I left, but I've had bad bosses. And the thing, at least I'll give examples from Microsoft. I don't know from other companies, but one is make sure that you're volunteering and working on various different projects so that you have exposure outside of your toxic boss. And the other thing I would say is get away from your toxic boss because I worked for some. And it just isn't worth it. But I think there's ways to work on projects. If say it's a large corporation and there's a variety of projects, you can volunteer, and then you can network and people get to know your value. Like you mentioned before about your skills. When people understand the skills that you possess, it's hard to read a resume and say, is this person qualified? But once you've seen the person in action, so volunteer for projects where you can be working on things that are give you visibility outside of your toxic boss. But number one, just like get away from them. They're terrible. Don't work for them. At all costs, get away from a toxic boss.
Yes. Okay. So another interesting point you made earlier is so you have to know that if what the things that you're working on is really beneficial to the company, or
right.
Is this making money? Is this part? So when we talk about security, privacy, hardening, those are the last things anybody want to do, especially if you are running into the development project. Nobody wants to do security, right? And this is the last thing what they would hang on to. So now question to you is, if somebody coming from a cybersecurity domain, if they are working with application owners, architects, how they would come up with something which can be ROI driven, or which can be like sellable to the business, basically?
I think, well, first and foremost, people might not care about those things until there is a data breach, until there is a security episode, until there is a problem. And then they care greatly. So I think one is use data. So wherever you can gather information and data to show the value in what you're doing. I think that's always going to be important in any job, cybersecurity or otherwise, is factual data. A lot of times when I was in roles that I knew were not directly driving revenue. So I worked in, one of my jobs was I worked in one of our chief product offices inside of an engineering org, and we would come up with the next, great thing that the product would do. Well, that doesn't drive revenue today, right? So how do I show my value? So what I did was I looked at what competitors were doing. And I pulled data in from analysts, and I would do a lot of different, data gathering. And then I would present that in some type of visual to my management to say, if we don't do these things, here is the implication. And so gathering data to show the if we don't do it, or here's potentially what could happen, I think is a way to show your value without actually driving revenue.
Very good, very good. Just want to add on to this as well. You made very valuable point actually here is to drive your points from data. Okay,
Yes.
to drive your discussion points. And one of the things on how you can do this is by checking your competitors, how they are doing it, right? And what the industry is doing it, right? As well as there are a lot of frameworks available which can give you better visualization and representation of the data. Okay, so you can like leverage those frameworks, but you have to be hungry for that. You have to be constantly upon your game.
Yep.
So this is the point what we were making earlier, that you cannot just stay in your comfort zone.
Right.
This thing, for example, gathering data, checking your competitors, is something which you normally will not be doing it, right? You would be just, doing your 9 to 5 job. You'll be focusing on what tasks are assigned to you, and you'll not be caring about why the business cares and what the business wants from you, right? So this is something which you can take it right now. So this can certainly can help you.
Totally
Okay.
agree.
Moving on, Sarah. So we have talked about all these points, and I really enjoyed your insights, and your insights are very valuable for me as well as for the audience. Now there's a fun part to our show, which is the last segment, in which
Okay.
we'll do some rapid fire questions, and I'll ask you random questions, and you have to say either it's a myth or a reality. Okay.
Okay.
So, and you don't have to think so much. You have to just
Okay.
say it out.
Sounds
Okay.
good. Sounds good.
Okay. So the first question is, can we see the robots in the street in 2020-30?
Can I say something other than myth or reality? I think eventually, we will get there. And I think it depends on what you mean by robots. Like right now on Microsoft campus, they use robots for security. They're these weird little penguin looking things. I'll have to send you a picture that roam around on the sidewalks. And they use a camera, just to see if there's suspicious activity. But I don't think it's going to be widespread. So I think, if you're talking about widespread by 2030, I think that's a myth.
Okay, cool.
So I had to caveat that a little.
Okay. Next, the OpenAI Stargate project, is it a failure or a success? If somebody will ask you in 2030.
I think success.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I also agree the same. There's a discussion going on that whether the DeepSeek is handling those compute powers better and it is much more efficient. But I think it's still there will be a huge demand, and this Stargate is
agree.
is definitely a problem solver. Okay. Next is if we have to predict what the 6G brings, let's say intersection of AI, blockchain, quantum, automation, what are the 2 technologies you pick that would make 6G a reality?
I think quantum's too far off. I think AI integration for sure. Maybe blockchain. It's a tough one because I think it depends on what capabilities we think 6G would have. I did a lot of work in like, as you probably know, in the 5G space, and I think I just think these technologies are still a little bit nascent, even in 5 years for broad adoption. So like each time we look at these different emerging technologies, it's a bit like you get an amazing new TV and it has like a bajillion features and you use like 3 of them, So I think it's, we're in that same situation where there'll be these pinnacle features, but infrastructure won't support them. So will it actually be able to use them? Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. And I've been doing a lot of research in the 6G space as well. I'm
what do you think?
Yeah, I'm coming from a telecom background, so that's what I was telling you, that the vision for 6G as per the standards work or as per the research that has been coming into the standard space, they are thinking 6G more of a cloud native to a AI native architecture, which has AI on different data points from radio, core, all those things. That is One, as well as it will be more distributed and decentralized. So distributed, there is a blockchain, that can comes in, which can, like better manage the infrastructure, resources, the consumption, all those things. So that is two of the things which can be seen in the 6G space.
Yeah. I can't even get 5G on my phone at this point. So I'm like, in 5 years, I'm like, are we really going to have great coverage?
Yeah.
Like the infrastructure, I think, is the biggest challenge. And when I was working on 5G projects, it was a lot of it was private 5G networks inside of, like a warehouse, because you could control those. But public is tough. Public is tough.
Yeah, true. Okay, so Sarah, that's bring us to the end of the show. I had such a lovely time with you, and it was really like an interesting as well, and an inside discussion with you. And thank you for sharing all your insights, and the way you explain complex topics in an easy to understand language and with analogy. I loved it, and I'm sure our audience would have also enjoyed our discussion. Any like final thoughts, people who want to reach out to you to help them navigate the struggling times, if they are laid off or if they want to do better with their career?
Absolutely. Well, first, I would just say technology is only as powerful as the people that build it. And I see the next wave of innovation being, not about person versus machine, but like people with machines, because we can't, neither of us can do what we need to do alone. But people can reach out to me on LinkedIn. It's linkedin.com/Sara Nagy, or it might be Sara L. Nagy. I will have to make sure we add that. But I'd be happy to help folks. I mentor a lot, and I really enjoyed chatting with you. And the thing I would say is during this layoff, people have been amazing in terms of like my network, and even people I didn't know, like yourself, reaching out and just wanting to help, but also just willing to listen, willing to support. And so I would be happy to do that for anyone, myself as well.
Oh, that is so sweet. Thank you very much, Sarah, again, for coming to the show. So guys, thank you for watching this episode. This was me, Taha Sajid, and we have like Sara Nagy with us in this show. Until next time, please take a very good care of yourself. Give me your comments, feedback about what did you like about this show, and any special or new guests you want to have featured in this show. Please do write to me as well. Until next time, take a very good care of yourself, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks.